You might. Ha 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 ha. Serves you right.
Oh, my poor horse.
Serves you right. 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 Poor horsemanship. No.
Wow,
No.
he threw that way over your head.
Oh, you piece of
Dude.
You piece of what the?
I got her.
Nobody.
I got her.
Alone. I didn't know. Rude.
Got her.
What are you doing?
I
Stop.
got her.
Oh my god. No. No. Hey, no. Wait. You doing? Oh my god. See you.
We're going back to camp.
Fuck.
What the hell?
I don't even like you. Do you mind? Get away from me. Stop. Oh my god. Leave me alone. Oh my god. What's going on? Oh my god. Oh no. Aha. Ha.
I mean, I hit the release button, so...
No, liar. I flee. I zigzag.
You have fleas?
What? No. Ah! What are you doing? That's wrong. Leave me alone. Oh my god. I'm so hard. Leave me alone. That's not fair. I didn't even mean to do it. And he's mad at me now. Stop. I have to tell him I feel bad. At least I didn't punch him in the balls that time. It was in the leg. I'm sorry, Warlock. Leave me alone. I'm sorry. Go away from me. I don't trust you. Stop. Nope.
What's up, everyone? Amethine here with Twist, and today we're going to talk about Red Dead Online and how we still love this game.
All the time, every day, I love this game.
Yeah, she actually loves it more than I do. She's put so many more hours into RDO than I have, and I've put quite a few.
Yep, I think at my last time I checked, I had over 1,600 hours in Red Dead Redemption 2, and a good portion of that is online. And actually, what's interesting, as much as we love Red Dead, there is a whole group of really loyal players that still play it every day, and some of those people have played it even more than I have. I thought that my level almost 300 in Red Dead Online was huge. There are people out there who have hit level 999, believe it or not.
That's way too many levels.
It is way too many levels. I bet I could do it, but then I'd never get to play anything else.
Yeah, but not only are we going to talk about, what we love about this game, why we still love it, we're also going to go a little bit into, what Rockstar got right with Red Dead Online and some of what we feel they got wrong. And then we're also going to discuss why we're disappointed that they abandoned Red Dead Online pretty quickly in favor of GTA Online. And let's be honest, we understand why, we just don't like it. We're disappointed. And then we'll also discuss, what Rockstar should have done with RDO and how maybe it's not too late to revive it and continue adding stuff to it. So let's get into it. Let's start with with the fact that we do love this game and why. I'll just touch on it a little bit. For me, it's I don't know. I like the realism aspect of it, at least in comparison to Grand Theft Auto Online. It's not quite as, I want to say superhero-y, I guess, like GTA is. Like GTA, you can defy gravity quite a bit with some of the stunts you can pull in your different cars and all that. You can destroy your cars and wreck them all over the place, and just your character comes out unscathed. But in Red Dead, you fall off your horse, you actually get hurt. You actually get hurt a little bit. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot about Red Dead that's unrealistic, right? But compared to Grand Theft Auto, it's a lot grittier. It's a lot slower paced, which I actually appreciate. Not that I don't like fast paced. I actually love fast paced in a lot of ways in other games, but Red Dead does the slow pacing beautifully.
Yeah, and it does the slow pacing beautifully, both in story mode, which I'm only going to touch on a little bit here because we're here to talk about RDO, but the slow burn of Red Dead Redemption 2 story mode kind of carries on with online, only in that you don't have any reason to rush. It takes a lot of time, real life time, to fill up your trader wagon. It takes 48 minutes, of real life time for Marcel to make your moonshine. So you have to spend a lot of time in the game because these things don't advance when you're offline. So it gives you an excuse to ride around and look at the beauty of the game, because there is no question that even though the game's been out for a while, there are not many, if any, games on the market that have quite this level of realism and immersion in the graphics, and in the sound, the quality of it. I've been playing Red Dead in the summertime, and it's been swelteringly hot, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, it's so warm. And then I'll take my horse and I'll go right out into Amberino, and I'll go around like Lake Isabella where it's all icy and the lake's frozen over. And I swear that I feel cooler because I'm surrounded by all this snow, and I'm only looking at that and the sound of the crunching of the snow underneath your horse's hooves, and it's almost like you can like smell the snow or taste it. It's the game is so outrageously immersive, both in story mode and online, even when really crazy things happen. um, you know, uh, and then of course, there's just the aspect of I enjoy role playing even in online, and like I know that GTA Online has like role playing servers, which I've seen some YouTube videos of. It's kind of funny, like people role playing police officers and pulling people over, and people will pull over and like accept their ticket. Like, all right, good for you. Uh, like break the law, pay for it, I guess. But in online, like as you know, I'll role play when I'm just playing my character riding around with you. Like we'll be stopped somewhere, you'll go in the gun shop, and I'll be waiting for you. So I'll go to the saloon, I'll get a beer, I'll smoke a cigarette, I'll sit on the bench, I'll go walk around and I'll look at stuff, and it's great that way. And it's one of the things I really love about it. And then there's horses, which we'll talk about in a bit. Like so.
Oh, your horse obsession, I swear. Yeah, I mean, the, for me, it's like I agree with pretty much everything you said in terms of like the game's beauty, the graphics, the attention to detail that Rockstar gave it, which made it worth the wait for me back when the game was first releasing, because like they had announced this game years before it got released, and Rockstar's known for that, right? Like they take their time with releasing their games, which is something I appreciate because at least in my opinion, that when they release a game, they already release it at a higher quality than most developers and publishers do nowadays. Modern gaming is mostly all about how quickly can we get this out in a functional state, and then we'll just patch it later. But Rockstar continues to release things above that bar. And even though, yeah, they still have to patch things after the game is launched, it's not so bad that you like it's unplayable like a lot of games, like the Cyberpunk fiasco with CD Projekt Red when that released, and just how
Oh
buggy
yeah.
that was when it first came out, and it took them a couple years to get it into the spot that it's in now,
Yeah,
to where it's
I
actually
remember
good.
that. I never played it because I remember when it came out, it had all those problems, and everybody was talking about it. And it was like the only thing that I saw on like any gaming media or like Facebook and like on Reddit for a while. Everybody was like, "Oh God, Cyberpunk, it sucks," And I'm like, "Oh, that's too bad." So I didn't buy it, and I know that it's better now, but I still haven't played it because of all of that. So
Yeah. Now I'll
yeah.
give CD Projekt Red credit where it's due. They did turn it around, but it took them a while to do that, but they did it. So kudos to them for that at least. But it's like how why would you? And I know they gotta. These are companies that are trying to make money, right? They want to make a profit. They're trying to get the pre-order money and all of that stuff, and they got to answer to a parent company a lot of the time, and that parent company answers to a board of directors, and it's just there's politics and all of that nonsense that we don't really talk about because, well, that's boring stuff. But um, but it's like it's almost inexcusable to release a game in the kind of state that Cyberpunk was in when they released it. That's they got a lot of bad PR for that, which is something that companies are actually really afraid of is bad PR. So it's like, what did you think was going to happen? Um, but anyway, we're not here to talk about Cyberpunk, so went off on a little bit of a tangent there. But for like one of the reasons I love Red Dead, besides the fact that it's a beautiful game and there's a lot of attention to detail, but it's that there are not that many games that are set in like an old west or frontier era, right?
Oh yeah.
Certainly not ones that are like so open world and allow you and are just really, I hesitate to say sandboxy because when I think of a sandbox game, I think of like Skyrim or Star Wars Galaxies, which I mentioned in our gatekeeping discussion. That video is on the channel too for anybody that hasn't watched or listened to it. Um, but so RDO doesn't quite live up to Galaxies in my estimation in terms of sandbox, but it's close. Like it does a good job for modern gaming for sure as far as the sandbox element. But it's the setting for me because, like I said, there are not a lot of games that tackle the old west or the frontier era like RDO does. Like there was Gun, like what 15, 20 years, not even 50, God, more than 15 years, like 20 years ago. Maybe even a little bit more than that, 25 years ago. I really enjoyed that game. Wasn't quite as sandboxy as RDO, but it was open world, and it was a lot of fun. I loved it. But RDO definitely took that and just like Rockstar just exceeded that tenfold in my opinion.
Oh yeah. I mean, there is a lot to be said, for the fun and fantasy factor of living in an outlaw lifestyle in like the American West and the frontier, because and you know this to be true, and for the Americans in our audience will also understand this to an extent. So those from other countries might not, but maybe this will help them understand. Is that we as Americans, a lot of us, we grew up with this fascination with the Old West, with the idea of like cowboys and like riding horses on the prairie and roping steers and like it's like this fantasy life of living out on the range and taking care of yourself and living off the land. And you can do that in Red Dead. You can do it in story mode. You can do it online. And the way, going back again a little bit to the like inherent the beauty of the game. One of the things that makes it so beautiful, makes it so immersive, and lends so much to that fantasy factor is that when you look at this game, I mean, look at it. Look at this tree, look at this grass, look at these. You could be standing somewhere in, like the American plains right now. Like that is what it looks like. That is even the like the shade of the dirt. Like you go out to areas like tall trees, and it looks, there's places out there that look like places where I used to go camping when I was a kid. Like, and it's just it's beautiful. It's beautiful America, and I love how it shows so many different like areas and like different little biomes of that are in America. And we have all of these animals that are so very familiar. Um, and like I said, you're living this like outlaw life, and you don't even have to be um a bad outlaw, because the way with the story, no spoilers for anybody who's not played it, which we'll also talk a little bit about the story later because it has its own issues. With these stories and this whole, anyway, I like got a little sidetracked, but think because now I'm thinking about how the story's not done. Um, anyway, you get this whole like living the American outlaw life, but you don't have to be a bad outlaw. You don't have to be a murderer. And in fact, there's a lot of RDO players, a lot of the hardcore players, the long-term players like us, who don't play murderous, villainous outlaws, and kind of me more so than you in this case, actually kind of like look down a little bit on people who do play these like wanton, violent, killing for no reason, going into town and like killing every NPC they see, or attacking every player they see on site, which is something that's, a little bit unique to RDO is in comparison to like GTA Online, where players are more likely to avoid conflict in RDO, um, because there's consequences. And
Well, the people
also
that go
just
around and just kill everything that moves, like I think they have outlaw confused with psychopath.
right, and that's something that I see people like on Reddit and other places where they're discussing this aspect, especially when it comes to doing like this, like the moonshine missions, or doing trader missions. Like sometimes when I would play online in an open lobby, um, with other players, I would be doing a moonshine delivery and somebody would attack me while I was doing my moonshine delivery, which makes no sense because you don't gain anything by attacking anybody who's doing a moonshine delivery. The only thing that you do is waste their time and maybe get a little bit of an ego rush. And then when it comes to the trader wagons, people spend, I mean, what is it? It's like it's 6 hours. It's either 4 or 6, but I feel like it's 6. 6 hours in which you have to be logged into the game in order for it to advance. You can't be locked out, and you have to run 4 or 5 resupply missions. You have to fill Crips's uh, supply bar up twice. It's a lot of work to fill up your trader wagon. And yes, there is an incentive for other players to attack you, while you're making a long distance delivery. And if you don't want to be attacked, you can do a short distance delivery. People will still attack you though. Um, but there's a lot of people that believe that it's bad form to attack a trader wagon doing a long distance delivery because that person just spent 6 hours getting that delivery ready and you ruined it in less than 5 minutes. And a lot of people will attack your trader wagon and then they don't even take your goods, they just kill you. So they're not getting anything out of it either. and i
Well,
and i think that's like a big difference between like the two gaming populations, wherein, like you said, people mistake outlaw for psychopath, and instead it's just not like that. Like nobody acts like that.
so I agree and well I agree and disagree at the same time. So I'm torn, right? Because on the one hand, I can see where it would be bad form to attack the long distance delivery on the supply wagon, the trade wagon, all that stuff. Because you're right, yeah, people do have to commit a lot of time to getting those set up. You said 6 hours. That's no joke. A lot of people don't have that kind of time in a day to commit to a game. So I understand how that could be bad form. But where I'm torn is if you are role playing, right? And I still maintain that there is a stark difference between outlaw and psychopath. Now there could be some crossover. You could have a psycho who is an outlaw. Like they're not mutually exclusive, but they're also not always the same thing. In fact, they're usually not the same thing.
Right.
But but where I'm torn is like if you're role playing and you are playing an outlaw and all that stuff, it is conceivable that you would attack a trade wagon.
Oh yeah, yeah, it
Like
is.
so from a role play aspect and from a realism aspect, the possibility is there, and
Oh,
it makes
definitely.
sense. So it's like it's not. I don't frown upon it in the sense of like, oh, that would never happen, because it totally would. For me, it's just like, where do you draw the line between role play and and not role playing, right? Like,
Right.
and everyone I think has to draw their own line on that, but so I kind of see both sides of that argument. For me, I would never attack somebody's long distance trade wagon, but that's also because those are not the kind of characters we play.
Right. Well, and like I've never attacked anybody's long distance trader wagon. I have been attacked, multiple times. And
Oh, one
sometimes
addendum.
I've
I would do it out of revenge. If someone did it to me,
yes.
I would totally do it back.
Yes, I mean I have been, attacked while doing a long distance delivery. And several times I fought the attackers off, and then another time I didn't get a chance to fight the attacker off because they blew the wagon up with dynamite arrow. So there was just like nothing I could do, and that made me more angry, right? Because when you blew the wagon up, you destroyed the goods completely. So he couldn't even come take them because like the actual object of it is not to destroy the enemy's wagon, it's to steal it and do the delivery yourself and get the money for it. So that's
Yeah, now that's
the
just being a jerk. That's just all you're trying to do is waste somebody's time. You don't care what you get out of it. You're just trying to ruin someone's fun. That's a whole different. That's psychopathic. Like,
right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so there's a difference there. Like, would I be annoyed if somebody stole my wagon and turned it in? Yes. But if they're taking my wagon and they're riding the wagon to the delivery spot and they're trying to turn the wagon in, or if they're trying to take my goods, you can also like take the goods and bring them to your own camp and then put them in your wagon. So if that's what they're trying to do, then I'm going to chase them down and try to get my stuff back. And we're going to have a fight. And that's a role play. That's role playing. Like now we're fighting. Now, like now it's on. But if you're just going to blow my shit up and then like leave or, camp me so that every time I respawn, you're like sitting on a rock a mile away with a Carcarno fucking shooting me in the head, like that's lame. And my response to that is going to be that you don't know who you're messing with and you picked the wrong person. And now I'm going to follow you around with my bow and a poison arrow, and I'm going to shoot your horse, and I'm going to laugh as you try to chase me down, but your horse just keeps losing stamina and you just fall past it. Anyway, uh, but yeah, so like that there is role play inherent in stealing somebody's wagon, but like blowing up the moonshine, there's no point to that. Doing weird stuff that just doesn't make there's no point to that. Trolling people, there's like no point to that. When I'm playing the game, I really just I want to log in, I want to hunt, I want to fish. I love fishing. Um in both online and story mode. I like fishing. I like it when it's a daily challenge. I used to do the online Amethine I used to tell him I'm gonna go do the fishing challenge. And so I would do the fishing challenge against like 20 other people and I would win because I like fishing. So I learned how to do it. And other people hate fishing, so they wouldn't learn how to do it. You want to know how to win the fishing challenge in RDO? Just ask me and I'll tell you how to do it. It's really not that hard. And it's fun and you get to see like yourself pop up at the end holding a giant fish and everybody gets to be jealous.
yeah. So there's a lot about this game. There's a lot to love about this game. There's also a lot to be really upset about, and that's true. That's true of any game, even your all-time favorite games. Like, there's a lot to be upset. Like, Skyrim is still one of my all-time favorite games to this day. And now a lot of that has to do with the modding scene on PC because I love a heavily modded Skyrim. But there's still a lot to be not happy about when it comes to Skyrim. And I'd be the first to be like, yeah, that sucks. Like the Civil War quest line and how buggy that always is, no matter
Oh
what you do.
gosh.
That's a
I
huge
know.
disappointment because it's one of my favorite quest lines. But that's neither here
And
nor
you
there. We're not here to talk about that.
better do
um,
it in that very specific order if you want to see that one specific quest. Otherwise, forget it.
yeah, and that's it. Yeah, and sometimes you also better do it in a certain way and before you do certain other quests in the game. Otherwise, you might not be able to progress the Civil War at all ever.
Yep.
And you may not even know what bugged it. It's just bugged, and now you got to go back to an old save that you don't have anymore.
And just for clarification for viewers and listeners who haven't heard our other commentaries or previous commentaries, just for clarification, it was agreed upon that Red Dead Redemption 2 / Red Dead Online is our mutual favorite game of all time. So,
Correct. Yep. Um, but yeah, so let's get into maybe like what Rockstar did right with RDO, and then
okay.
in some ways like what they got wrong. And then we'll also talk about like how disappointed we are that they abandoned this pretty quickly in my estimation.
Yeah,
Like, don't get me wrong, they supported it for like what 4 or 5 years after it launched, but
something like that.
that's not a long time in modern gaming. That's not a long time at all. Um,
No, the game
so
released in 2018.
right, and they abandoned it officially when in like 2022, 23.
I will check and get back to you in a couple seconds. So
Um,
continue while I check.
yeah. So while you do that, yeah. So like as far as what I feel like they got right, and I'm gonna talk a little bit. I'm gonna talk mostly about the online, but a lot of this is true of the story mode too. Now the story mode is near perfect in my opinion for like a modern game. Like it's a masterpiece. Um, like that's not to say I shouldn't say it's perfect. I know I said that already, but I shouldn't say it's perfect because it's not. But I do consider it a masterpiece. The
Yes.
online aspect, the online aspect, I don't consider it a masterpiece, but it's close as far as online gaming is concerned. But it can't be a masterpiece because they abandoned it so soon. But
Mm.
what I really enjoy about the online aspect is the different class or roles that you can play. Like I love being a bounty hunter. You like being a bounty hunter too, but
I love it.
you also like doing the other things that I don't care about like at all. For me, like I just like to bounty hunt. That is my favorite thing. I like doing the trader missions and stuff like that, but I like to bounty hunt, and I actually just like to hunt too. Like I'll just go out into the Great Plains and hunt buffalo for a couple hours because why not? Like that's what they did back then. But there's just something relaxing about going out and hunting, whether it's buffalo, deer, coyote, turkeys. Um, I find that I guess soothing in a way, peaceful. But there's nothing like a good bounty hunt either, and I just really love doing that. Um, and then you know more about the legendary animals and stuff than I do, so I'll let you talk about that. But the dynamic encounters are really fun
Oh
with
yeah.
like the strangers and stuff. And that's really fun in the story mode too. But in RDO, like you don't come across it as much when you're in a public lobby because like all the other players will run into those a lot of the times before you do, and so you won't see them. But
Yeah.
if you download the mod that lets you play on a private server, you can come across those a lot more, and they're a lot of fun.
It's called Red Dead Online Lobby Manager. I'll put a link to it in the description.
Yeah, you can get it on Nexus mods. It's really cool.
Yep, and you can set it up so that when you load in, you're in a solo lobby, and you can share code with your friends so that they can plug that into theirs. And then when they load in, if you're playing, they'll just be thrown into a lobby with you, and vice versa. So that way you can make sure you play with your friends and only your friends. And it's extremely useful for PC players who don't want to deal with modders doing things like teleporting you into a cage with 6 grizzly bears.
Or blowing you up from across the map and you never get to see them. Let's and just so we're clear, like that's the main reason that we play on a private lobby is
Pretty
because
much the only reason.
because we don't want to deal with the modders because for a long time, they were out of control. And Rockstar, it didn't feel like Rockstar was doing anything about them. I'm sure they were trying, but it just doesn't seem like they were successful, and it doesn't seem like they were devoting a lot of attention to it. So we were just like, all right, we'll just play on a private lobby, so we don't have to deal with the cheaters and all of that stuff because it's ridiculous.
And especially with the one of the trainer programs, cheat programs that they were using, actually would make it so that when you went to report them, if you opened it up and you went to go send in a report, you would disconnect from the game, so you were unable to report them, which was very frustrating. And after too many encounters with them was when we were like, said we were gonna just find the solo lobby thing. It's been very useful. Definitely lets us see more dynamic encounters and more legendary animals. And to answer the earlier question, before I continue talking about that, um, was so Red Dead Redemption 2 was released in October 2018. And that was, for consoles. Then it was released for PC. I believe it was 2019. It was either 2019 or 2020. But Red Dead Online, of course, launched around the same time. So the game was 2018, and then they ceased major content updates for Red Dead Online in July of 2022. So that was 3 years and 7 months after the release of the game, which really is not a very long time
Yeah,
in terms of a game's lifespan.
yeah, that's not even teenage years for a game. That's still in its infancy, or at least it's a toddler at that point. At least if we're talking about a game as big as RDO, and if we were talking like an actual MMORPG like World of Warcraft or ESO or SWTOR, that's that's basically prenatal still for me. Like
Yeah.
if we're talking MMO terms, but for an RPG like this, it's barely getting its sea legs yet, and they just abandoned it in favor of GTA Online. And we all know why. It's because GTA Online makes them way more money than RDO did. But they never really gave RDO the chance to get to that point.
Well, and the thing is that I think that the two games, fundamentally have different player bases, have different fan
Oh
bases.
yeah.
And while sometimes they cross over, like, we both enjoy the Grand Theft Auto franchise. We're in absolutely no way crapping on GTA. GTA is a great franchise.
Yeah,
I
no.
enjoyed four.
It's one of my favorite series ever.
I enjoyed four so much. I would load up the game to drive around in my car the same way that I load up Red Dead to ride around on my horse. But in addition, I would load up GTA so that I could go bowling or go play pool, because there was no bowling alley near where I lived, and I like bowling, so I was able to go bowling. And I used to be good at pool, so I would go play pool.
Well, I
Um,
play GTA. I like the single player of GTA. I don't really
yeah.
engage in GTA Online. I played it a little, but it just wasn't. I didn't enjoy it. Like it just wasn't for me. And I honestly I can't even really put my finger on like why I didn't enjoy it. It just didn't scratch the itch for me. And but RDO does.
And it was
GTA is a lot more chaotic. It's a lot more unrealistic, and that's part of the appeal is how unrealistic
right.
and just silly it is in comparison to Red Dead. And that's the kind of player base that GTA Online attracts are the people who like the mayhem and the chaos and just blowing things up and causing and wreaking havoc across the city. And that's cool. That's part of the reason I play single player GTA, so I can do stuff like that.
I mean,
Without
don't get me
having to
wrong, I
deal with
love a
other
good
players.
explosion.
Yeah, like but I want to play GTA without dealing with other players, and I like causing mayhem in just the single player open world. Like I love that.
Yeah.
RDO is you already said it. It attracts a different player base. It's gritty. It's a lot grittier. It's more realistic. It's more down to earth. It's a lot slower paced. It's going to attract people who have more patience.
Yes, and I think that a little caveat here. Neither Amethine or I actually engage in the instance PvP aspect of Red Dead Online, so we don't do any of like the gunfight showdowns or stuff like that because we really do just prefer the other stuff. Plus, I had thought about getting into it for a while, and then after doing some research, I discovered that a lot of the people that were doing those things are actually just like win trading and doing silly
Oh,
things
hey,
like,
this is where Thieves Landing betrayed us.
oh no, that's right. This was so strange. We're not really sure what happened. Everything was fine, and we were making this delivery, and then the next thing we knew is they just started shooting at us, and then we had to kill everybody.
Yeah, everyone in
So
Thieves Landing, not just the bandits that were chasing our trade wagon. Literally, the entire little town turned on us, and we had to kill them all. And
yeah, it just made no sense. And there's this one wonderful uh part where a guy falls off the railing, so watch for that. But yeah, so we were talking about like the dynamic encounters and stuff, which is something that I really enjoy about online. So, in story mode of Red Dead, you have a lot of stranger encounters where you're just, riding around, and there's like a damsel in distress, and like she fell off her horse and you got to like bring her out, or some guy got his wife got kidnapped, and you see those things in the story mode. But a lot of people who play online don't realize that those also exist online, but you don't often see them. And one of the reasons you don't see them is, as Amethine said, because there's so many people in the lobby that they've already done it, but also because of the way that things spawn in Red Dead Online. See, Rockstar wanted to make sure that you never actually see anything spawn into the game. So when there are players with their like line of sight turned in one direction, nothing will spawn in that arc for like a specific range. And I don't know how long that range is, but it's pretty big. And so that's why a lot of the times you won't see these dynamic encounters, random encounters in online mode, because nothing cool spawns anywhere. And that's also why there's a lack of legendary animals. And yes, and Amethine was saying, so he never really got into the naturalist role. And I did it just for the sake of completionism. I wanted to level it up. And I did like all of the collections for it at least once, except for I have not gotten all of a couple of the legendary animal categories because I just haven't run into those. Some of them need special conditions to spawn, like it needs to be raining or whatever, and I just haven't run into them. So anyway, you're also more likely to see legendary animal spawn if you're in a solo lobby as opposed to with a lot of people. And I enjoyed the naturalist role to an extent. Like I'm not like a hippy dippy person, so like I like hunting and doing the trader role. Like Amethine, I find hunting relaxing. Fishing also. I wish that we could turn fish into crips. Um, because I really enjoy fishing in the game. Uh, so I don't mind hunting, but I thought that the naturalist role added something interesting for people that don't want to like wantedly slaughter animals, because not everybody wants to like hunt for fur. Some people don't believe in hunting for fur, and you're totally free to feel how you want to feel about that. So I thought that it was neat that they offer two different non-violent non-combat class roles for people who don't necessarily want to hunt or engage in combat, or in the case of being a trader or a naturalist, you're not engaging in criminal activity at all. So you have an opportunity to play a character who is only an outlaw due to circumstance because of the story, which again we'll touch on the story a little bit uh, in a few minutes here. Um, so you're only an outlaw because of the events of the story. You didn't actually commit any crimes, and you can play somebody who is legitimate and you know actually follows the law and isn't like this wanton criminal, wanton violence. Um, so I of course I've capped out both roles, not just a trader, and Amethine also doesn't do trader. Trader I found, or collector rather. Um, Collector I find to be boring. If unless I'm like in the mood for it. What's good for it is if you just feel like riding around. There's this really great map. I'll also put a map link to this online map in the description. There's two versions of it. One of which
Oh,
is just an online map.
this is one
What?
of the things that Rockstar did right. They let me troll you when we're in the same posse.
Oh yeah. I'm. Oh dear. Okay. All I wanted was to sit down and smoke a cigarette and order ammo on the log, but he was not trying to allow me to exercise my Second Amendment right to to purchase ammo from the catalog. So anyway, where was I? You got me all confused.
You were talking about
Oh,
the collector role and how it's irrelevant.
right. It's not really irrelevant. But so yeah, it's something that like sometimes I find it boring, but it's also good for just like riding around and looking at everything because and again I'll put the link to these maps down below in the description. There's this set of great maps, and you can use one of them. Just you can have it show you where every animal spawns, where every plant spawns, including like the rare plants. And then there's a collectible map that you can use to show all the collectibles and like plan out a route so that you can start at one end of the map. And when I do this, I like to start all the way over by like Emerald, like Tumbleweed area. I'll start all the way out in the desert, and then I'll make my way uh, east, and I'll finish in like Roanoke. Um, and so, like I'll just follow the map, and I'll pick up all the collectibles. And I did that for a little while, but what I found out in order to pick up every collectible on the map in one day, it would take like 6 hours straight of playing and riding around. So I only did that a couple of times, and then I focused on specific collections. And I still enjoy it because the collector and the moonshiner thing kind of go together because you can pick up the rare plants and make moonshine out of. Um, and some of the stuff that you pick up as a collector, like the coins, are actually coins that people collect in real life. Um, so some of those things. Oh no, he was mocking me, making dynamite arrows. He's just
Yeah. So
such a jerk.
okay, so we both like the bounty hunting, which is
Mhm.
pretty in depth and it's got some variation in terms of the different bounty targets and things like that. I actually wish they had added even more than they did because it does get a little bit repetitive going after the
Yeah.
same targets all the time. But there's enough variation that if you take a break from it for a little bit and come back and do it, then it feels a little bit fresh, semi-fresh again, if not completely. So we like the bounty hunting. You like collecting. You like trading and doing all of that stuff. But you mentioned the moonshining, and that's one of the things that I feel like Rockstar kind of dropped the ball on a little bit is because it is moonshining because like even though it's a quick way to make cash, right? That's it. That's all it really does
Yep.
for you. Is like it just makes you a little bit of money. There's no real depth to it. There's no like greater storyline behind it other than it's illegal.
Well, I mean,
um,
you do the storyline for it, but then once you get through the storyline, that's like the last you see of those characters other than them like sitting in your moonshine shack. You don't even see the nephew again at all unless you're replaying the story missions. And the like only mission you get is like the delivery, unless you do like go out and like defeat the roadblocks and everything. Like there's a lot more that they could do with moonshining and to an extent even trading, um that they didn't do, like you were saying, like other than it's illegal, right?
yeah. Well, and the moonshining isn't the only thing that they just kind of like left feeling unfinished.
Right.
Like and that kind of leads us into the story, like the overall storyline of RDO, which takes place what like 10 years before the single player story, something like that.
Yes, something like that. Yeah.
And they just left it completely unfinished. Like you get you could do what exists of the RDO storyline in what, a couple hours,
Yeah, it feels like it.
and that's it. Like it just stops, and they never finish it. Like you never find out what happens to what's her face.
Jessica Leclerc.
Yeah, Jessica Leclerc. You know, like they
Okay,
just abruptly stops.
RDO was 1 year before Red Dead Redemption
One
2. So
year,
RDO
okay.
set in 1898. Like you can get missions from Sadie up in Coulter. Her husband's still alive, and you get missions from one of them during the day and from the other one at night. But we never go up there. We
Yeah.
never do stranger missions.
So, I mean, that's really all that needs to be said about the storyline, right? It just abruptly stops, and
Yeah.
because they abandoned RDO, like they never finished it.
Well, and the funny thing is that when the game released, it was not finished, and like they never added anything. It just abruptly ends where it ends, and you do get so far. And I'm purposely trying to avoid spoilers, and I know that that sounds fake to people who are listening and have not played Red Dead Online, and it's silly that I'm trying to avoid spoilers for a story that's never finished. But I hope that they take a look and say to themselves, boy, we really dropped the ball here. There's actually still something there because this game still has loyal players, even though we abandoned it.
Well, that
You know,
that kind of leads
so
us directly into what we were going to talk about next, which is like how it's not too late to revive RDO.
yeah, I mean, and like, let me just real quick touch really quick back on the storyline again. You know, the
Yeah.
the thing about it is that it's the storyline is what drives your character being an outlaw. That you're falsely accused of something, and you're supposed to help this Jessica Leclerc is her name. You're supposed to help her, like, get her revenge, right? And you go through all these quests, and it seems like it's building up to something really epic, and then all of a sudden, poof, and they never did anything with it. They were dropping outlaw passes, but never fixed the storyline, and it's kind of like that was almost immediate. So it's like, were they always, almost feels like they were always planning on just abandoning RDO. But then they did stuff like put the naturalist class in years later, but still never fixed the main storyline. So yeah, and then like we're saying, they pretty much they ceased support, all major support and all major updates for Red Dead Online as of when did I say it was July 2022. So it's been almost 3 years since Rockstar has ceased major updates. They still do like monthly events where you might get extra money for doing bounty hunting missions, or you might get extra money for doing trader missions, or like this last month it was for all roles we're getting extra money and extra experience. But outside of that, they haven't done any new outlaw passes. They haven't done any new other events. They turned the snow on and the Christmas lights for Christmas. But that's it.
Well, that
Um,
that tells me they still have. Well, and of course they would, right? Like, why would they completely trash all this stuff and just throw it in the recycling bin and then delete it forever? But like, they still have the coding, the access to the servers, and all that stuff. I mean, any company who has a proprietary product, they're gonna keep all of that, and they should. Which tells me they totally could come in and start doing major updates again and doing all that stuff. Now, I'm gonna be realistic. They're not gonna do that because they've already made the decision to abandon it, and companies like gaming companies are not known for changing their minds on things like that.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah,
And
but they totally could
it's
revive
sad.
this. Yeah, it is
Oh
sad
yeah.
because this game is great and it had so much potential, and they definitely pulled the plug on it way too soon, all over dollar signs not being there because people weren't buying gold bars like they buy GTA cash.
Well, to be fair, that was their own fault for not limiting the amount of gold bars that you could get by maintaining your daily streak early. They did that late. If they had done that earlier on in the game, more people would have bought gold bars.
Sure, um, but yeah, I don't know. They could totally revive this game. There's no way it's too late for that because it still has a loyal enough fan base that they could do it and
It
still make
does.
some money off of it. Like something they could do is, and I know you've talked about this, but they could expand on the class roles with more missions. Like they could implement more bounty hunting stuff, more prestige bounty hunting stuff, like more difficult bounties. They could do hybrid missions where multiple roles are required to complete the mission. Like you could have a bounty hunter and a moonshiner team up to do something, or like a
Yeah.
trader and a collector could team up to have to do something. Stuff like that, or even add more
Or
roles.
yeah, and they could add more roles. There's all sorts of really, really cool things that they could do. And like you're saying, there's this hugely loyal player base, right? And when I say hugely loyal, I don't mean that the player base is huge. I mean that their loyalty is huge. These are people that they're still playing a game 3 years after the developers basically said, screw you, we're not giving you anything else. I've played through all of I played through all the battle passes, outlaw passes. And I know that like you did not get to finish one of them, so like you didn't get the wilderness camp with the fast travel, which sucks for you, And I don't know why they don't bring those back, let people finish them, do them again. That would even bring some people back just to play through the outlaw pass because now they can get the stuff that they didn't get before. There's a bunch of other things they can and do, but my point with this loyal player base, right, is that if I go to Reddit right now, there are 4 or 5 different subreddits that are dedicated to Red Dead Redemption 2. They're dedicated to the story mode, dedicated to online mode, dedicated to like roasting the characters, dedicated to people love the game. And they would love it even more if Rockstar would throw it some support. And yes, I understand why they would support Grand Theft Auto Online and why they would choose it over Red Dead Online. But here's the thing, I believe that there is room for both games in space. I don't think that you have to take one or the other, especially not for a company, let's be real, as big as Rockstar. We're not talking about a teensy weensy little company that doesn't have resources, that doesn't have people that believe that these games are passion projects. You can't look at Red Dead Redemption 2 and not tell me that every blade of grass, every leaf on every tree was rendered and drawn with passion. It's just so visible and audible in every bit of the game. And the players feel that way too. We love this game and we still play it. I'm almost level 300 in Red Dead Online, and the only thing that keeps me from playing it every day is the thought that it doesn't matter how many dollars I make in the game. It doesn't matter how many gold bars I get. I've already got all that stuff. And I can ride around on my horse and I can enjoy myself that way. But in the back of my head, I'm always thinking about how Rockstar doesn't care about this game that I love. And if they added some more class roles, new classes, why don't we get a fisherman class? Why can't I go fishing and fill my bags up with fish and then bring them to the market and get a better price than I would if I just sell them to the butcher? Why can't I craft stuff out of fish? Why can't I, like sell it to the restaurant in San Denis? There's all sorts of stuff that you could do with that. An apothecary or a snake oil salesman.
They
There's
could
all these
add.
herbs in the
Oh,
game.
that would be cool. They could add like a Pinkerton role.
Yeah, like yeah. So like, I'll go with that one in a second. So like, an apothecary, or snake oil salesman. There's all these herbs in the game. We're already making potions. We make all these miracle tonics and all this crap. And half the time, we don't even need to use it. Well, I mean, I don't, and I know that you don't. Some people might need to use them because they might um, get shot. But we're pretty good at dodging bullets. So, I mean, sometimes I get shot, but then it's fine. I heal. Um, anyway, what about a stagecoach driver? That could go and pick up fares at different towns. It's just an NPC that gets in your wagon, and you're a stagecoach driver, and you can have somebody ride shotgun, and you both get paid. Literally have somebody ride shotgun. Um, and what about like a rancher role, right? What about player housing? You know how many people would come back for player housing, for the ability to build your own ranch house and have a barn and have some cows and some horses and some chickens, and they could just maybe grow some vegetables, and you bring it to the market and you sell it. And while that might sound silly, what the heck? There's a whole bunch of games that are like little mobile games that are like that, and people love them. And you could do that here in a game that looks realistic in a setting that is already, appeals to the vast majority of American gamers. Like is it's so silly to me that these things were not thought of or implemented. I would love to have player housing in Red Dead Online.
Well,
I think that would look great.
you could also like, I mean, I agree with that. You could also add things like the ability to rob trains. Like we can already do it in story mode. Why can't we do it in Red Dead Online? And and you and I talked about this before we started this commentary. But like, you understood, or understand rather, why they don't allow people to rob banks in RDO. But I don't agree with that decision. I totally think that should be a thing. And while there are a limited number of banks in Red Dead Online that people could rob, you could still set it up. You could still implement something like the heists from GTA Online, right? Like you could still set up where people can form these posses that do heists of their own in like Red Dead style, where they can rob banks, or maybe they go and rob like a late night poker gang from a rival gang or something like that, right? Like
yeah, so that sounds like fun.
You could set things up like that. Would it be difficult to implement? Yeah, absolutely. But if any company can do it, it's Rockstar.
Well, and the thing is Red Dead Online players would eat that stuff up. I mean, it's just it would add so much, to the gameplay, and you could even add these things like one at a time, little bit by little bit. And they did add some stuff, even after they said they were going to abandon it. They added in those blood money missions, which are really just stranger missions, wrapped up in a different thing with like a little currency or whatever. And I honestly, I do feel that the blood money missions and the like missions to like get the jewels, that they had limited replay value, in my opinion, because they were all dishonorable. And so playing as an honorable bounty hunter, I felt like I could not participate in the only thing that had been added to the game, because there were no honorable actions. There was no like being able to recover the gems and then bringing them to a museum, for example, or something, so that you could have an honorable action. I feel like they dropped the ball with those, because yes, there's plenty of people that play dishonorable characters in Red Dead Online, but in my experience and speaking to a lot of other players, most of us are on the honorable side of the spectrum, because that's just the way that Red Dead players are, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we've covered pretty much everything that we want, because we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours.
Oh God, yes, definitely.
And I'm not sure that people would want to listen to us talk about this for hours and hours and hours. Although if you would, then tell us, and we might be able to set that up. But for the time being, we've set out to talk about what we wanted to talk about, and we've accomplished that, I think, for now, at least in the most, not the most bare bones way that we could, but certainly not in the most in depth way that we could either.
Yep.
But we've gotten our point across.
If you want us to talk about any of these topics in depth, or maybe make another commentary video about it, just let us know.
Yeah, we could do a part 2.
or if you just want to hear some of our stories from playing Red Dead, because we've got plenty of them.
Oh yeah, lots of those.
Or if you ever just want to watch us play Red Dead Online, let us know that too. Maybe we could live stream.
Yeah, or if you're interested in playing with us, let us know. Like, we're not gonna expand our private server into 20 people, but we might be able to create a different private lobby for us and some of our listeners. Or if there's another topic you want us to talk about that's gaming related, we can put that on our list. Or if there are any other games that you're not sure if we have played that you want us to check out, or you want us to talk about, or maybe we have played them and you want us to talk about it, then bring that up too. But most importantly, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, because it really it does help us out as far as the algorithm goes and all that stuff. But more importantly, it makes us feel like we're super dope pudding, like we're just really cool people. It makes us feel powerful.
And it's also, like I said, if we get 100 subscribers in like the next week, then I am gonna make Amethine a sandwich, but like not just a regular sandwich. It's gonna be like the best sandwich ever. But we have to get subscribers, otherwise he doesn't get a sandwich. So
I already look emaciated as it is. Don't punish me like that.
Don't let him starve. Hit the subscribe button.
All right. Well, once again, guys, I was Amethine. She's Twist.
Twist.
And we appreciate you listening. Hit the like and subscribe button. We are out of here.
See you later.